Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about documentary cinematography and how to film stories with your final edit in mind. So often when we're out there in the field, we film a ton of footage only to get back to our edit and not have what we need to tell the story in the way we want to. But there are a handful of simple habits that you can get into as a cinematographer that will not only give you what you need in the edit, but also save you loads of time in that edit. So let's get into it. 10 strategies that will have you thanking your past self when you're in the edit. Oh, by the way, if you're new here, my name is Austin Meyer. I'm an Oakland-based documentary filmmaker, National Geographic Explorer, and on this channel, I share the field-tested skills, mindsets, and lessons that have helped me on my journey as a documentary filmmaker. Okay, let's get started with the hold habit. Back when I first started out as a filmmaker, I'd get out there for a shoot and be so eager to get as many different types of shots as possible. And not in a good way, like more in a, I don't really trust any single one of the shots I'm getting right now, so let me just get a bunch of options and hope I find something that I like in the edit. That was kind of my mindset. And then combine that with the feeling of not wanting to overshoot so that I had so much footage to wade through in post-production. The result was, time and time again, I'd get into the edit and my camera was just bouncing around all over the place. I would hardly have any moments where I could just leave a clip on screen for like 5 seconds before suddenly I was moving the frame onto something else. Nowadays, I make sure that whenever I am shooting anything, even if I am almost certain the clip will only be used for a split second, that I hold on that frame for 10 seconds. Literally any type of shot. Just get in the habit of holding for 10 seconds so that you have flexibility in the edit. If you start a clip but then reframe, start your count again. I'm always just counting silently in my head, breathing and being patient. This is also important when you are going to pan, tilt, or zoom. Start shooting with your camera still, hold on that image for a 10-second silent count, then pan, tilt, or zoom in one fluid motion, coming to rest on your end image, and then hold that image for another 10 seconds. Give yourself options. Maybe you thought a pan was perfect while you're out there shooting, but then in the edit, it doesn't feel right. If you do that hold before the movement, you'll be grateful you gave yourself a still frame to work with. All right, habit number 2, I'm going to call the reaction habit. When we are shooting conversations between 2 or more people, it's so tempting to always follow the action of the speaker. Almost like we're following the ball in a soccer game, only filming the person who is speaking. But when we do this, conversations become a mess to edit because we never have anything to cut to when we're editing the conversation. That's why you need to make sure to film reaction shots from the person or people listening. This goes for conversations, and it also goes for presentations in front of an audience. Use your intuition to transition from filming the speaker to filming the audience. Use the hold habit for 10 seconds, and then you can think about what's next. And this isn't just about getting cutaways. Reaction shots add depth and meaning to a scene. A scene is so much richer when you not only hear what someone is saying, but you understand how the person feels who is listening to whatever is being said. A great example of this is the documentary Retrograde from director Matthew Heineman. That movie practically hinges on the emotion and tension communicated in reaction shots. And since we were starting to touch on it, let's talk about the cutaway habit. If you're filming a scene, no matter how amazing that scene is, there are going to be edits. You are going to tighten it up. You will distill it into its most important moments. And for every cut that is being made to do that distilling, you need a cutaway. So wherever you're filming, make sure to take a moment to turn your attention to the environment and pick out a dozen or so objects to film as cutaways. Sometimes I'll do this while filming the scene or conversation, like I will intentionally film someone's hands as they're speaking, or from their back, or their shoes, or the water bottle on the desk in front of them, or out the car window if I'm filming someone talking in the car. Other times I will grab cutaways after the main action of a scene has culminated. For example, I'll film a conversation. That conversation will end, and then before moving on to the next location or scene, I will ask for 15 minutes to grab cutaways, and then I'll wander around the room getting those environmental details or the close-up on the letter someone was holding. No matter how you do it, get more cutaways than you think you'll need. That brings us to the listening habit. As documentary cinematographers, we're not just creating pretty images, we're telling a story. And if we disregard audio, we're disregarding half of the power at our disposal. So when you're filming, always listen to what is being said, because it will give you important clues as to what and who you should be shooting. If you're not listening, you won't be able to fully understand the emotional dynamics of what is going on. Let's look at this quick scene from the Oscar-winning documentary Navalny with commentary from director Daniel Roher. This is literally the scene of the movie. And I want to see if you can pick up on the last three habits in here. So the reactions, cutaways, and the listening.
Just today, I guess.
I had no idea what Navalny was saying. I don't speak a word of Russian, so you sort of just have to figure out where to put the camera and who's the most important person to be filming at any given time.
Мне ваш телефон дал Владимир Михайлович Богданов. Извините за ранний звонок, мне нужно 10 минут вашего времени, очень сильно нужно.
So it's around this time that when I'm filming, that's my shot there. It's around this time that I realize this conversation is progressing further than the others. And then out of the corner of my eye, quite suddenly, I realize Maria, who's Navalny's chief investigator, she is noticing something. And I watch as her jaw unhinges and hits the floor. And even though I don't know what any of these guys are saying, these expressions that I'm getting are astounding, and they make it very clear that something is transpiring here.
All right, that's enough on that scene, but hopefully you picked up a couple of moments where you see those types of habits coming into play. And one final note on the listening habit is when you're filming a scene and you need to reframe the camera, don't turn off the camera when you're finding that new frame, because especially if you have audio coming into your camera, you're not going to want to lose important sound while you are reframing. Okay, the fifth habit is the establishing habit. There have been countless times in my career that I got into my edit and realized I never got any establishing shots of the environment that a scene was taking place. And yet it's one of the simplest and most important shots in a scene. That's why I now employ the establishing habit. Whenever I arrive on location, the first thing I do once I get my camera built is grab an establishing shot. The exterior of the building, the wide shot of the park, wherever your location is. Just get it in the bag right away. You can always come back to get it again if the light changes dramatically or if you want to spend more time on the framing, but just get it in the bag immediately. Here's an example from a recent shoot I did with the North Face. I arrived on location to film at this Airbnb where a North Face athlete was staying. I said a quick hello to them, told them I was going to grab a couple exterior shots and would be inside in a moment. So I immediately went out to the car, got the camera, and got this establishing shot of the house. And then I put my drone up and got this shot. Get those shots, get those establishing shots in the bag, and then you can move on to why we're really there. Next is the varying proximity habit. Not the greatest name, but that's what I came up with. When you're filming a scene, keep track in your head of how you are using the three basic types of filmmaking shots and make sure you're mixing it up. The three types of shots are wide shots, which are used to show the subject from a distance or the area in which the scene is taking place or a character's physical or emotional relationship to the environment and elements within it. You got your medium shots, which usually show a character from the waist up, kind of like this shot right now, and close-ups, which fill the screen with part of the subject, such as a person's face or head. The close-ups usually heighten emotions of a character. And if you make sure to have a good balance of all three of those types of shots, you'll give yourself a ton of options to edit a dynamic scene in post. Habit number 7 is the not talking habit. One of my biggest challenges when I'm filming with people that I like is that I love talking with them. I will chat and ask questions all day, but then I'll get into the edit and realize that every bit of footage I have of someone has them talking. There isn't a moment where the person is just being. And that's really frustrating because then I can't really use the shot as B-roll. That's why I now follow the not talking habit. So whether you are driving with someone or just walking with them or whatever, try to get them doing things when they are not talking. Oftentimes I will literally have to cut someone off mid-sentence and be like, all right, Let's just spend 5 minutes getting footage where you pretend I'm not here and you're not gonna talk to the camera. And then I get those shots and it's always a well-spent 5 minutes. Next habit is the see what they see, hear what they hear habit. If you're filming someone and they see something meaningful around them, do your best to film what they saw. If the thing they saw only happens in a single moment, this might mean a quick and messy pan of your camera, but don't worry about it being rough because it's so important to show us what they saw, or at least try to show us. Other times a character will look longingly at something that isn't going anywhere quickly. So grab the longing glance and then move on to showing us what they're looking at. Same thing goes for loud ambient sounds. If there's an ambient sound, let us see either what made that sound or where that sound came from. In my latest Nat Geo doc that was shot at an animal sanctuary, a rooster crowed so loud in the middle of this poignant reflection.
Then we're really missing out on the ability to have.
So that was a moment I cut from B-roll back to the A-roll so that you could see the context of where that sound came from. The 9th habit to ensure the smoothest edit is the repeat the question habit. When you're interviewing someone for a documentary, it's a good rule of thumb to ask them to repeat the question in their answer, especially if the interviewer isn't mic'd up themselves. So when I tell interviewees this, I usually give them an example. I'll say something like, all right, if I ask you, what is your name? Instead of saying Austin, it would be more helpful if you could say, my name is Austin. So give us context for the question you're answering because my voice won't be in the final piece. This is so helpful in the edit when you're piecing together quotes because now you'll be able to work with full sentences instead of these tricky sentence fragments, just tough to use. And the last habit I want to touch on today is the room tone habit. This is one of the most recent ones that I have added to my process, and I know the editors I've been working with definitely appreciate it, and that is grabbing something called room tone. So room tone represents the sounds that you hear when a room is completely empty, besides just the people standing in the room silently. It represents the subtle, low volume sounds that occur in a room, and no two room tones are the same. Recording that tone is super useful in the edit because it can be used as a sound bed to accompany any new sound that is added to a scene in post-production, or any edit where you are stitching two quotes together from different parts of an interview. Having that sound bed, it just provides continuity. So what this means for me is that when I am on set and conduct an interview, after the interview, I will ask everyone to be silent for 30 seconds. And I just keep rolling. 30 seconds of silence that can be used as a sound bed in the edit. We're just gonna be silent for 30 seconds, ready, set. All right, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you wanna like and subscribe to the channel, I would not be upset with you. But if you're this far into the video, I'll love you either way. So I'll see you next week. Until then, go out and tell some stories.